Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be filming a book recommendation video. This is kind of a productivity channel, so I thought I would recommend you the books that I love. As you can see, I have a big bookshelf and I've got some more books over there, so I'm going to pick out my top either 10 or 20 book recommendations. Okay, so I'm going to start with book number one. Book number one. It is called The Dickadoy, and it is about this little gypsy girl. Well, she's actually half gypsy, and it's just how she navigates going to school and getting bullied, and how she's really proud of her gypsy blood and how she isn't ashamed of being a gypsy, because I think this is set back a while ago, so it's when gypsies were kind of ostracized at that point. So yeah, it just shows how she does that. And she has this beautiful horse, and I think the horse was called Joe, if I remember correctly, and it's just a really nice book. It's called The Dickadoy by Rummer Godden or Godin, I'll show you. And yeah, it's really good. I really recommend it. The next book I think is a very popular book. You may have, it has a movie version. It's called Wonder, and it is by R.J. Palacio. I'm sorry again if I'm butchering these names, but I really love this book. It's about a boy called August who has a face deformity. He's had to have multiple surgeries, and he goes, I can't remember what grade he goes in. I think he's starting secondary school, but I think it's called grade 7 in America or something. But yeah, he's starting secondary school, and it's just how he makes friends with I think it's a boy called Jack Will. But yeah, he makes friends with a girl and a boy, and he does get bullied, but it's a kind of celebrating a differences book about how, you know, there's a wonder in everything. So it's a really good book. The two books, The Dickadoy and Wonder, is for a younger read. So if you are young and you like this read, this is definitely a good one. This one is also called Bloom, and it's by Nicholas Skinner. This is definitely, I think, in the category of 10 to 12 read, but I still bought it anyways, and I absolutely love it. It's such a comical book. It's about this girl. She just moved into her town, or is it she just moved in? No, she hasn't. She's lived in this town for a while, and she decided that she wanted to get into the hobby of gardening. So she goes to this little strange little garden shop, and I think she plants a load of seeds. And oh yes, I remember. So the seed, she doesn't plant the seeds, but the seeds get planted in everyone's heads, and basically flowers or different types of plants get grown into each person's head, and it's very unusual, and they kind of just learn how to cope with it. This whole town is basically has plants on their heads. It's kind of like a boring town from the point of the little girl Sage's view, and then this kind of makes the town a lot more funner. And yeah, I think it's a really funny book. It's very nice. I do like this. So the next two books are a series. It's called A Place Called Perfect, and then The Trouble with Perfect. There is a third one, and I haven't got that one yet, so I will be getting that one shortly, hopefully, because I absolutely love this book series. It's basically about this little girl called Violet, and she moves to a new town, and she moves to this new town, and then suddenly she starts having eye problems, and her whole family has eye problems. And they're like, we've never had eye problems before. But it turns out there's this evil glasses doctor guy that gives them tea that makes them go blind and kind of steals their eyes. it sounds like horror, but it really isn't. It's a really good book, and it's basically how they get their eyes back. And yeah, it's a really good one. There's a boy whose name actually I think is Boy, and they kind of save together. It's a very it creates a lot of imagery, these two series, and it creates a lot of imagery, so you can definitely see it. And yeah, I just love these two books. The Trouble with Perfect is then about how the doctor comes back and tries to do it again. Yeah, and he tries to do it again, and he uses Boy's look-alike. So Boy has apparently a twin that was separated at birth. So I'm not going to spoil any more, but yeah, that's basically how they do it, and these are a great series. So recently I've been getting into books themed around World War II, and this is one of them. I actually bought this book after a recommendation from Ruby Granger. She did a book recommendation video and this was on it, and I got it, and I love it so much. It is such a tearjerker. It's about this boy who was born in a concentration camp because his mum was very pretty, and then she was pregnant, and one of the guards fell in love with her and allowed her to keep the baby, but it had to be separated, the baby David, into the boys section of the concentration camp. So he managed to grow up, and then the guard helped him escape. And it's just about how he goes to different places like Italy to try and get back to his mum, who is in the Netherlands, I think it was. It is a tearjerker, and there is a few deaths. Well, there's one major death I'm not going to spoil that I legit cried at for a full day, and I feel so bad. I'm not going to spoil it, but it really is. It's a great book, but it is a tearjerker, definitely. By the way, it is by Anne Holm, if you want to know. So I have this book by Ross Welford. He's one of my favourite authors at the moment. He's written, I think I've got another book in this pile that he's done. So he's done The 1,000-Year-Old Boy, The Dog Who Saved the World, and then there's also, I think I've got another one, the Time Traveling with the Hamster, and I just need the last one was What Not to Do If You Turn Invisible. He is such a great writer. I can't not stress this enough. I love his books. He just shows that emotion in his writing, and he has some relatable characters in it, and I just think it's an amazing novel. This book, The 1,000-Year-Old Boy, is about this boy and his mum who has eaten these pearls that make you live forever, and he's lived for 1,000 years, but he doesn't want to live forever. He's constantly saying goodbye to these friends that he's made. He's only 11 years old. That's when the age that he took when he had the pearl, and he just doesn't want to live forever anymore. He wants to be young and just be with his friends that he made. So he's now on the hunt to eat the pearl, because you have to eat another pearl not to reverse the effects of aging, but to stop aging. So this is how he does it with his friend, his two friends, and they help him try to find the pearls. But then there's this archaeologist who wants to find the pearl to live forever, but there's only one pearl left. So who gets it? I'll leave that for you to decide when you read the book. So yes, the second book by Ross Welford is The Dog Who Saved the World. It is a really sad book, because if you're a dog lover, I suggest read it, but there is some sad moments. I am an animal lover, and basically there is this dog virus that starts happening, and then there has to be a cull of dogs that are found out on the street, and this dog in the picture gets the virus, And so its owner, Georgie, who I think is 11 years old as well, she befriends this really mad and eccentric scientist, and basically they time travel to the future to find the cure to save all the dogs, and then they time travel back to then save the dogs before all the dogs get killed. It's a really emotional story, especially if you're a dog lover, which the book, the girl in the story, Georgie, is. She's a dog lover, so she finds a hard time, and she definitely quickens up her pace when when her dog finds the virus. And also the plot twist in it kind of is that the more she travels back, she only has a time limit in the future, about 5 minutes, and the longer she stays in there, the worse her migraines get, because basically the eccentric scientist is using her brain power to save the dogs in the future. And basically she gets iller and iller, and she gets more migraines, and she starts getting seizures from this, but she does not give up until all the dogs are saved. Or are they? You never know. But yeah, that's another great book. So this is a book called Now or Never, and it's a Dunkirk story from World War I, I think, the famous battle in Dunkirk, France. It's a very popular one, and this is basically a story. Well, it's written by Bali Rai, and it is about the Indian and Pakistani men who fought for France, on the side of France. And it's basically, I never knew this, but apparently these guys were one of the last to escape Dunkirk because of their race, despite them helping the fight in France. So it's very interesting, and it's basically how it's very chaotic. It's the point of view of this guy. So he literally leaves India to help in the fight, and it's how he basically tries to get to England for safety. And there's one point where he actually says the title of the book, it's Now or Never. His what's it called, like battalion, his troop has to go now, and if they don't, they're trapped. So it's a very, you can't put this down. It's such an interesting read. One of my books that I actually read when I was in primary school, and I bought it again and I read it again. It's about this boy called Jim. His whole family are literally on the border of being in a workhouse, and he basically, I think his sisters die, and his sisters die, and his mum has no job. She has no way for providing for the family, so they walk they walk a couple days, and this is in winter, to a workhouse, but unfortunately the mum doesn't make it, and she dies in her sleep. So she then, or is it she dies in her sleep? I cannot remember. But anyway, he ends up in the workhouse. But as you may know, if you know anything about the Victorians, that the workhouse was a horrible, horrible place to live. That is for last resorts. They said I think death was better than going to the workhouse. So definitely it's a great read. It definitely talks about the the survival of this little boy in the workhouse, and he eventually escapes and becomes a street child. Okay, so my next book is called When the World Was Ours, and it's by Liz Kessler. This book, it's an amazing book, but it's so sad. Okay, so again, it's set in World War II. It follows 3 kids who are best friends, Elsa, Leo, and Max. Elsa and Leo, they're both Jews, and yeah, Elsa and Leo are both Jews, and then Max, his dad is a Nazi officer, and he was a Nazi officer before not before World War II, but before they became a thing, really. So nobody really minded, and then suddenly the whole hating on Jew campaign started. So then Elsa and Leo, they had to flee. They fled at different times. But yeah, this book's actually quite interesting because it is not separated into chapters. It's separated into the point of view of each person at the same time. So this is Elsa, and then you move a couple pages and then it'll go to Max. So that's how it's separated. It's a really interesting book. I cannot spoil it, but I cannot stress enough how good this book is, and you need to buy it, honestly. So the next one is also, I think it's kind of like a series, but this writer, her name is Pamela Oldfield, and she writes stories about different types. There's one called The Great Plague, and there's another one called The Workhouse, and it's usually about big time periods or big events in history she writes about, and does it kind of like a fictional story, and it's just about in 1965 the Great Plague, no, not in 1965, 1665, the Great Plague in London, like the Black Plague. There's been lots of plagues, but anyways, this one, and it just talks about this girl, how she has to move to the countryside. I think if I remember correctly, her dad gets the plague, or someone in her family. I think she even gets it too, and just basically how like she copes with it. It's a good read. Not on my top 10 favourites, but I definitely would recommend this to someone. Okay, so I've got another World War II read. It's called Once, and it is by Morris Gleitzman. I think it's a German name. But yes, this is another one about a Jew. What is it? Oh, yeah, this is a sad one. Oh my goodness. This is another sad one. It is about this boy. I can't remember if he's an orphan. Yeah, he is an orphan. Yeah, okay. Yes, it is about this boy. He goes to, he's in an orphanage, but he's a Jew. And it's an orphanage in France, and it is occupied territory. I think it's in France. And then he has to move. Well, yeah, I think then he has to escape the orphanage because they don't know he's a Jew. And they get inspections every so often. It's either he escaped to find his. Yeah, he escaped. I can't remember. He ended up getting caught, and then he went into. And then he kind of went into this another orphanage, but it was an orphanage for Jews, and basically it was this Jewish doctor who, this story isn't a true story, but it's based on a true story of this doctor. He used to save children from getting sent to the gas chambers. He used to say, I will go and you don't have to give me extra rations or anything, but just let me take these Jewish children. And yeah, in return, he helped heal Nazis, soldiers, dead in the elements, and he would get some kids. So it was a really nice story. I think, if I remember correctly, it does have a bit of a sad ending, but the writing is incredible. All these World War II stories I'm pulling out, the writing is incredible, and it really pulls at the heartstrings. Now here's the classic, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. You probably have read this one. It's by John Boyne, and it is another truly incredible piece. I love it. You probably, if you've watched the movie, you most likely know it has a sad ending. You most likely know what happens, but it is a great read, and I always recommend this to people whenever people ask me, oh, what do you like to read? I'm like, this is it. So yeah, this is a great read. I probably don't know how to explain it to you because it is a very popular book, but really it's just about this boy whose father is like an SS officer. His father's put in charge of this camp, and they live close to it, and the boy makes friends with a Jewish boy, and it's a story about friendship. despite their differences, but it still has a bit of a sad ending. So I have another book. My sister's borrowed it. She's on a trip to Scotland at the moment, but it's called, I think, The Great Swan. Or I'll put the title here and who it's written by, but it's 3 generations of Chinese women, and it's basically all talking about the trials they had during communist China. It is actually it's fiction, non-fiction, so it is a true story about the hardships they faced, and it is really good. It's a bit hard to get into, but the stories are so interesting and I really enjoyed it. Now, I do go to the library from time to time, and these are the 2 books that I have gotten. There's the Puppet Boy of Warsaw, and this is a Jewish one. I think I haven't read it yet, but it's about a boy who lives in Warsaw Ghetto, and his grandfather dies, but leaves a box, and one has a coat, and in that coat there's a puppet, so he uses it to like kind of cheer up the people in the ghetto and make it fun. But apparently it's a story about survival, so I can't wait to read this one. I don't know if it's a good one, but that's just what I'm reading at the moment. And the one that I am nearly finished is The Women at Hitler's Table. Like I said, I am into World War II at the moment. I just think World War II books have such incredible writing, the fiction. So yeah, this one is based on the food tasters for Hitler, just to make sure his food wasn't poisoned. This is definitely an adult read. This is probably the most adult read I've done. It has a couple saucy moments in it, but yeah, it definitely is a good read, and it really dives in deeper into what a woman food taster was like, because I did not know that they had these in World War II for Hitler, so it actually was kind of educational in a way. But yeah, this is a good one. It's called The Women at Hitler's Table, and it's by Rosella Posterino. But yeah, I think this Rosella Posterino, this was her first book translated into English. I did some research because I thought it was such a great piece. So yeah. And my last one I always recommend to people is It's the Details That Count, and it is by one of my close friends. Her pen name is Adele Lee. I have not read it, safe to say, but it is about Martha and her sister Nora. They both have autism, which makes them key detectives to solve lots of murder mysteries. The pages I have read have been so good. My friend is such a great writer, and she's put so much effort in. So sorry for this little promo, but if you would like to read this book, it is on Amazon. I will leave the link down below, and I just think that you should all read it because it is such a good book, and she's put so much effort into it. So thank you for that. So thank you so much for listening to my book recommendations. If you have any, I'm looking to always read some new books. So if you have any book recommendations, leave them below. And thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye!